Hello everyone, my name is Nitish and I am making this video as a reflection for what I have learned in my early childhood education course. So this presentation which I am reflecting here, what's the main purpose of it is to reflect on the video. So there is a series of videos connecting with practice. So I have chosen one of the videos connecting with practice, discovering storytime transition to nap time. So in this presentation, I will consider how children interacted during story time, what they learned at story time, and how the link was made to sleep time. I will also explain what went well, what could be better, and how I change for the next time for the future learnings. So let's move on to the next slide. That's the first slide. So what's the reflection focus? So the main reflection focus considers story time, transition, rest routine, and future practice. I will use the ELF learning planning cycle to reflect on observe, assess, plan, implement, and evaluate. So these are the basically 5 parts of the planning cycle. There is more to it than the story. The story time transition is like it is more. I am focusing on the whole learning environment. Like in this video you can see storytelling, children's responses, toilet preparation, and preparing for bed. So we can see like how teachers, educators, how they prepare the children for the bed. It is like a process. I am implementing the ELF planning cycle as it assists educators in the process of observing and assessing children's learning and planning, implementing and evaluating their learning. This is significant. Why it is? Because reflection should result in improved practice in the future. So what I gained from my uh, learnings as I do my internship in the childcare, so I will take from that part how I transition children from story time to nap time, and what I learned from this video, how would I implement that in the real life, how would I improve myself in the real life when I will work as an educator. So, so what's the context of the video? Let me give you a little bit context of that video that I basically selected. So what happened in that educator was sitting and she was reading story. The what the story? Children listen to Three Billy Goats Gruff. So this was a story that children will listen to. So the children, 4 children, sit in a group in front of the teacher, and the teacher will narrate the story to the children, and it is like the story time which is conducted in almost all of the uh, childcare centers here in Australia. So the Three Billy Goats graph was read to the children in the video. They repeated trip trap as the teacher told them to repeat trip trap after me, which makes the sound of the goat uh, walking, and so also reply to the troll and also follow the educator's storytelling. From then on, the teacher transitioned the children to sleep time. So this demonstrates that routines are a component of learning. The environment of children is not simply about following directions, it is about them learning to be a participant and to be independent. Because like if you can notice from the video, so in the video what's happening basically, the after finishing up the story, even in the story itself, when the teacher is telling the story, teacher is asking the questions and the children are also giving the reactions like, oh, that is a monster, oh, trip trap, wow. And then the teacher, because it is a book, so when teacher is like shuffling the pages, then she is also um, pointing out to few details like these are the eyes and this is the flow, this is the goat. So that's also like children also learn from those ones. So after that, our teacher guided the children that, oh, it's your toilet time, let's go to toilet first. And then in the meantime, when children's focus was on other things, like they were still playing, so what did educator do? Like some of the educators which I see, that they just make the bed by themselves and then they just told the children to go to their beds. which is like one of the way of the learning. But the other way which this video showcase, which I basically like the most, is teacher asks the help of the students. Can you help me to put the bedding on your mattress? So by doing that, children learn that it is not only like that educators has to do, it is about following directions. So children follow their teachers, whatever they are doing, they're helping, they get a routine to work on. And so that's like more to be a participant. That's the learning that is set up there. So all these small comments and reactions, what were they were part of children's reflection. One child said it's a monster, and the another child responded, whoa, no, when the troll wanted to eat the goat. This demonstrated emotional understanding as well. I believe the teacher could have asked one question before nap, like what happened in the story. So it will give you a little bit more context that what children learned um, about the story, what were their more emotional reactions, and what they wanted to speak. So we should give them also a part in that. So that could be one of the improvements which I will do if I will do transition from sleep time, like from to nap time by myself. So I will do that. I will incur that in one of my slides. And then move to the next slide. So children's level of engagement, which we can already see, was high as they listened, viewed images, said words, and responded as a group. They joined in with confidence to the repeated trip trap which teacher told them to say. This turned story time from passive to active because all the children were interested in taking part in the story. Educators can facilitate children's learning of social and emotional concepts by what? By discussing the events and emotions in a story with them during shared book reading. So this was a good aspect of the practice which I like like a most. And then moving on to the next slide, we can see, so what was the learning that is achieved. We're going to discuss that in this slide. So according to myself, children engaged with learning language, listening, prediction, and story sequence. They were all confident in joining with the group words. I know that the learning that was taking place because the children were responding to the characters. They were involved in the story and they were recalling the repeated pattern. The ELF outcomes can be valuable for understanding and monitoring children's learning, particularly with regards to communication and confidence, as this was referenced by Larson and Coherson in 2025 book. The outcome was mostly achieved, according to me, in the story. So, social learning. What is social learning? So, social learning was provided in the story as children identified fear, danger, courage, and problem solving all in one story. As a group, they also shared attention. As illustrated in Figure 1, educator-child relationships can have an impact on children's well-being and prosocial behavior. This helps to validate my claim that the educator's response is key, particularly when children are taken from an energetic tale to resting time. So that's the should be the main focus. And so transition movement, the move from story time to nap time was quick. Children assisted with beds and blankets. This helped them to become independent, but there was not enough preparation to move from an active story into rest time. Transitions might lead to discontinuity as children switch from one expectation to another, from one place to another, and from one emotion to another. At one time, they were just listening to a story, they have different emotional moods, they have different emotions, they are sitting at another place, and when the transition is happening, so they are switching up to sleep, which is a like different aspect of the emotion, and then the place is different, they need to they make their beds. I believe a smoother transition would have been accomplished with a calmer, strong, or breathing movement which should be done. Rest time is for comfort, well-being, and emotional regulation. This should not be considered just a day-to-day job. As illustrated in figure 2, sleep does change as a child grows, which means that educators should be responsive to the individual sleep needs. This can result in some children getting sleep while others may require quiet rest. There is no need to be like more strict on that routine. There should be more flexible routine for well-being for all the children. So sleep and rest must follow the service policy and the national regulations. Teachers must take into account supervision, sleep space, children's age, development, comfort, and family information. So there should be at least one or two teachers according to the number of children's, according to the strength, like how many children are there. There should be uh, accordingly teachers in that room according to the age groups. There should be enough space between the beds of the children, and so it should all be taken into account. That comes under the safety and regulations. Sleep and rest policy should cater for the individual needs of children and ensure they are kept safe. That is a statement given by the New South Wales Department of Education. This therefore requires careful planning of nap time. It should not be rushed after a very active story, because we might miss some crucial safety and regulations. There are three principal ways in which this video relates to the National Quality Framework. Quality Area 1 is reflected in children's learning through the time spent in story. Rest, safety, and well-being are demonstrated in Quality Area 2. Respectful relations are demonstrated in Quality Area 5. The National Quality Framework is basically a set of principles that work to enhance the safety, health, well-being, and learning of children. Thus, it has both care and educational value. I would add also some puppets, characters from a felt board, bridge blocks, visual routine cards, and soft music to this uh, story time. We can also, like, we can already see the children are wearing some dresses, but if we can add some like puppets and characters, so that will be like more indulging in the story. These resources could used with children learning through visual, kinesthetic, auditory, and activity based approaches. Visual cue cards will also aid children in knowing what's next. Movement, quiet activity, and rest are important to young children's health and participation. This would help to clarify the transition. Moving to the next slide is the learning extension. After rest or the next day, the story could be continued. So that is one of the extension. Children might use puppets to retell the story, create a bridge, draw a picture of troll, or create trip trap noises with instruments. This can be an extension, as we can assess children and what they learn. Did they learn something? Did they were paying attention on the story? Was like the story time is going focused, or it should be there should be some changes, so we can learn from those extensions. This would continue language, imagination, and movement. I will also include calming breathing prior to sleep, as there is emerging evidence that sleep loss can impact early brain development. So as children listen to the educators, they listen to say strip trap noises, should also start to include this one thing, the calming breathing situation between the story time and the nap time. So this links learning to well-being. To the next slide is the eval planning cycle. So it underpins continuous observation, assessment, planning, implementation, and evaluation, as illustrated in this figure 3.1. Listen to children's comments and consider their feelings, language, and transition needs. Plan for extension of the story. Use visual cards, which I already discussed, and calming music. And like, we need to do all these things. Why? To see what was successful, what children like the what children follow the most. This is important because the reflection should lead to next stage of planning. We should use all these reflections. So what should be the future practice? I would continue to make story time interactive in the future, but incorporate a more peaceful conclusion of the story time before nap time. I would record observations and comments from the children and share them with other educators and their parents. Figure 4 illustrates that this teacher collaboration facilitates joint reflection and improvement in practice. Critical reflection should result in real changes in teaching rather than only in description. The main improvement I would make is a smoother story to rest transition. So that is the only main focus. So these are some of the references of all the, you can see from my presentation. You can take a note from where I learned about this, what are the notes, where make all the notes for this. Thank you very much for giving me time for listening to this my reflection. So what's the main gist of the story is that we should, like, story time transition to nap time is a part of the day. So we shouldn't be hurried up, or we should put more focus on it, as more most of the educators put focus on the learnings that they do all over the day, but most of them forget to critically reflect on this transition time. It is also a very crucial time, because like it is usually take like 1 or 2 hours depending on the childcare of the day. So we should be putting more focus on that. We should be reflecting like what's the story, what should be added more, so that we can add the our learning cycle and implementation according to that. Thank you very much and have a good one.